to Google Classroom. You have to go to classroom.google.com, sign in with your school email address, and then add Algebra 2. Algebra 2's join code is T as in Taylor, or tap, 6 A B X as in X-ray, C as in cat, and W as in walrus. And then just by doing that by next Tuesday, you'll get 40 points. If you do it after next Tuesday, you'll still get credit for it, but it'll be half credit because it'll be considered late. If you have trouble doing this, like if you don't have internet access at home, or you don't know how to do it, or you're confused and computers scare you, come see me before school, after school, or during time to teach, and I will walk you through the whole process, and we'll do it in my classroom, okay? But if you don't come see me and you don't do it by next Tuesday, I'm just going to assume that you just didn't want to, which is fine. I'm not going to make a deal about it. All right, so first of all, solving equations. I kind of said that I expect you guys to be pretty masterful at solving equations at this point in time. So if I were to give you something...
Sorry, there's a fly.
Okay. So if I were to give you something with parentheses and x's, I would expect you guys to be able to get to the solution. However, let's talk about the absolute value stuff. Absolute value. So absolute value equations can be a little trickier than regular equations because you have to remember to split it into two different equations. So let's take a look at one. I might say absolute value of 3 minus x, and then set this equal to 5. There's going to be two different solutions to this particular absolute value situation, and to find them, you have to split it into the positive equals and the negative equals. So whatever's inside here, this absolute value bracket, it could be equal to positive 5, and then the absolute value of it would be 5. So I could look at 3 minus x equal to 5 and solve that, and I'll get one solution. So if I do that here, 3 minus x equals 5, who haven't I called on yet today? Christian, what would be the first step? Subtract what? Great. So subtract 3, and I get negative x is equal to, let me move this up a bit, 2. Let me fix that. So negative x equals 2. Now, Savannah, what does that mean plain x is equal to?
-2.
Great. So x equals -2. And you can check that this is correct, because if you go back up to the absolute value, and if you do absolute value 3 minus -2, this becomes absolute value of 3 plus +2, which is absolute value of 5, which is equal to 5. Okay, cool. We found an answer. But there's more than one. The other answer is going to come from doing 3 minus x, setting it equal to -5. Because what's inside the absolute value could be -5, and then when you take the absolute value, it turns into +5. So first step here is going to be the same as the first step you had over here. You're going to subtract 3, and you're going to get negative x is equal to -5 minus 3 is -8. Okay, and if negative x equals -8, Tristan, what does positive x equal?
8.
Okay, so this is the other solution, and you can check that this is correct, because if you do absolute value of 3 minus 8, okay, well 3 minus 8 is -5, and the absolute value of -5 is 5. So there's two solutions. One solution is 8, and the other solution is -2.
We'll have two solutions for the answer.
For absolute values, yeah. Well, there is one situation where there won't be two solutions, but I don't think that shows up on this homework. Yeah, it doesn't. Okay, so there's that. Now, I want to add just a couple more cogs to it, and then I want to talk about solving inequalities. All right, so first of all, if you have something like the absolute value of y plus 7, and then we'll say that this is -8 equals 10. So in this situation, you have some work to do before you split it into two different equations. Before you can do that, what you have to do is make sure that the only thing on the one side of the equation is the absolute value symbol. So yeah, so first, before you do anything else, you have to add 8 here, and you're doing that to get the absolute value alone. So this is going to be absolute value y plus 7 is equal to 18. And now you can split it into two different things. Okay. So one could be y plus 7 equals 8, or sorry, 18. And the other is going to be y plus 7
Negative.
equals negative 18. So here y equals 11. And here y equals negative 25.
Isn't that hard?
No, this isn't that bad. What will often happen though is a lot of times when I teach students this, or when I remind them how to do it, they'll get to one solution, like they'll say that it's negative 2, and they'll think, well, it's absolute value. So if one of the solutions is negative 2, the other solution has to be positive 2, and just skip doing all this other stuff and say the other solution is positive 2. You can't do that. You have to actually verify that it would work. And so, like, again, like I said, a lot of students would get 11 and think, well, because it's absolute value, then the other one is negative that, so it would be negative 11. But negative 11 isn't negative 25. Negative 11 doesn't make this whole thing work. It's wrong. Right? Okay. So, everybody got that kind of sort of okay?
Tristan, that was rude.
Jostled in your memory at all?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's take a look at inequalities. So, inequalities act exactly like equations, except for one thing. So, inequalities. Inequalities act exactly like equations, except for one thing. And that one thing is that if you multiply or divide by a negative number, you have to flip the inequality. So, like, for example, here, I'm going to do, let's do 5 minus 4x is less than 25. All right, so to solve this, I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides first. So I'm going to get negative 4x less than, if I'm minusing 5, this is 20. Now, to get x by itself, I need to divide both sides by what? Anybody? Negative 4, right? So then I get x, and then this over here, 20 divided by negative 4 is negative 5. But because I divided by a negative number right here, this has to flip.
Alright, that's right.
Okay?
I remember this.
Now, the reason it flips, like, I don't know, you don't have to put this part in your notes. I don't know if you guys even ever wondered why it flips. But the reason it flips is, let's say I have two numbers here, like 3 and 5. 5 is greater than 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If I multiply both of these by a positive number, like say times 2 and times 2, I'll get 6 and 10. Does the inequality still face the same direction?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Pac-Man still wants to eat the thing on the right. But if I multiply them by something negative, like let's say negative 3, I'll get negative 18 and negative 30. Now, in this case, would you rather owe somebody $30 or would you rather owe them $18? So the negative 18 is actually the bigger one. That's why if you multiply or divide by a negative number, it flips the inequality, because it changes how far away from 0 it is, or what position of 0 it's at. Does that make any sense? Selena, you're looking very thoughtful. Okay. One last thing, and this is double-sided inequalities. So your book is really going all out trying to remind you guys how Algebra 1 went, because there's like 3 things in this one lesson, and last lesson was just one thing. So the third thing that's in this lesson is the double-sided inequalities. So if I have something like, say, 15 is less than y plus 5, which is less than or equal to 28. So if you're solving this, you don't need to be afraid of it.
So should we subtract 5?
Yeah, all you have to do is subtract 5. But when you're subtracting 5, you're doing it not just to the middle, you're doing it to the right-hand side and also the left-hand side. So you're treating it like it's an equation with 3 sides. So this would turn out to be 10 less than y less than or equal to 23. And then you're done. Kind of, sort of? Does that make sense?
So you only going to work from 11 to 23?
Yeah. So, like, it can't be 10, so it could be 10.1. But it could be 23. Okay. So your assignment for today is in your book. We're going to do page 8. Let's do 1 through... let's do 1 through 23. Let's do the whole thing. Why not? Y'all are brave.
I have reasons why not, but I won't say them.
No, y'all are brave. You can do it.
Oh, I'm not supposed to learn anything today.
Okay.
Robinson said so.
Yeah, he did tell me
Yeah,
that.
he said focus on the game, don't learn anything.
Okay, so again, I want to talk about questions 1 and 2 with you guys. So go ahead and get your your paper out and your assignments and everything, and we'll talk about questions 1 and 2 together. Because again, like the hardest questions on this assignment are 1 and 2, just like on yesterday's, I think.
Oh, crap. Come on.
It's the way this book works.
They're just after.
Okay, so question number 1 uses this term in math called the empty set. What the empty set means is it just means that there's no solutions. And so like, you got this set up where it's 12 minus absolute value of x equal to 15. Alright. So, what would be the first step? Like, you have to get the absolute value alone. So what's the first thing you would have to do, Cannon?
Subtract 12 from 15.
Great. So minus 12, and then you've got negative absolute value of x equal to what?
3.
Great. Now, the absolute value still isn't alone though. You've got this in front of it, this negative represents a negative 1. How would you get rid of the negative 1?
Making the x.
Do what, sorry?
Making the x a negative.
Well, this doesn't work like a parentheses, you can't distribute it. So like, how would you get rid of the negative 1?
Make it a negative 3.
Yeah, and so you'd make this absolute value of x equal to negative 3. Okay, now the reason that this has no solution is because, is there any number you can think of that when you take the absolute value of that number, you get back out anything at all that's negative, let alone negative 3? Okay, so that's why the solution to this is the empty set, which is 0 with a line through it. It means there's no solutions. And you have to explain that. Like, that's part of your answer, number 1, is explaining that the reason there's no solutions is because there's no number whose absolute value would be equal to negative 3. Kinda, sorta?
Yes.
Only on days that end in Y?
But not yesterday.
Well, not tomorrow.
Yesterday.
It wouldn't be
That's what I
tomorrow.
said.
It would be today, but not tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yesterday ends in 1.
Yeah, tomorrow it doesn't. Tomorrow's the 1. Okay. So that's question number 1. Question number 2 says you got negative 4x greater than 12. And then the other one is x greater than negative 3. And the question asks, are those two equivalent inequalities? So, to answer that question, the one on the right is already solved. You need to solve the one on the left. So Colton, how would you solve the one on the left? Great. Divide both sides by negative 4. So then I'm going to have x here, and what is going to be on the right-hand side?
Negative 3.
Colton?
Negative 3.
And then, which way is the inequality going to point now, though? Is it going to be the same?
No. No.
Right, if you divide by a negative, the inequality has to flip. So it's no longer negative, it's no longer greater than, it's now less than. Remember we just, like, moments ago, talked about this. I just had you write it down. Here you go. I was sitting right over there. I watched me do it. So if you divide by a negative, or multiply by a negative, you have to flip the inequality. And so, are these two inequalities the same?
No.
No. And then does it say explain why?
Justify.
Justify your answer. Justify your answer is because when you divide it by a negative here, you have to flip the inequality. So, if it were an equal sign, the two would be the same. It's not an equal sign, it's an inequality. In fact, it is mathematically impossible for these two to be any more different than they are right now. It's mathematically impossible for that to be any more different. Okay. Kind of a side thing. Has anybody ever heard like an ad or something like at a store that says save up to 20% or more? Has anybody ever seen that at a store?
Mm-hmm.
Up to 20% off or more? it is impossible to be less descriptive than that. In
Yeah,
that.
up to 20%. Or
Right.
more.
So like, if we're charting that on a number line here, because I'm a math teacher and that's what I do, and like we've got 100% here, and then we've got 20% here. Up to 20% means from 0 to 20%, including 20%, and or more means anything more than 20%.
So
That's all the percentages. It's every percent. It is impossible to be less descriptive. Like, that is essentially a worthless statement, up to 20% or more. It's crazy. Anyway, I'm a math teacher, so what I think is funny, you might think is funny. Or might not. I'm a math teacher.
Easier to say up to 100%.
Well, but then people will be in like, why isn't the whole store free?
Why don't you pay me for that?
Right, exactly. Okay, anyway, 3 through 23 is the rest of your assignment. You can work alone. You can work with somebody else. You can work with your invisible pal Steve. You can listen to music if you want to. It's due on Monday. If you have questions, I will be around. Okay. Oh, yeah, book number. Thank you, John.
Hi, Boone.
Is that 10?
I think 9. It's 0, 1, 0.
Okay, we're going to call it 10. You even filled out the time.
Say no at the trap. You already did.
We are there.
Yeah. Well, you're not a day ahead. You're just morning class.
Oh, so this is your second Algebra 2 class today?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
So you didn't have to take notes, did you?
Well,
Or notes are different. Never mind.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Schwager would
I-
teach the lesson slightly differently than I did.
I had to take notes on the stuff I missed yesterday because we didn't go over slope or equation of a line.
Mm. He just expected you guys to know it.
Well, it hasn't come up in the book yet.
Mm.